Okay, we're here discussing the book Red Notice by Bill Browder. Now this is a different kind of video for my mom and I to do. Normally we do a lot of comedy videos, but I want this one to reach a different audience. One that knows this story that's in here and knows who Sergei Magnitsky is and Bill Browder. So first I just want to introduce ourselves. I'm Angelo. This is my mom, who's about to drink water while I'm introducing her. And I'm reviewing the book Red Notice here from Bill Browder. First of all, I'll just go ahead and say, go read it. It's a very important, just incredible, horrifying book. This is a case my mom and I have discussed for about 6 years, going on 7 years. When I first told you about it, the death of Sergei Magnitsky in Russia. And I've been following the case for a long time with a lot of interest. So to give first like just a minute long synopsis or so of the events of this book, which took place over the course of many years. It's written by and about Bill Browder, who is an American, although now he's a British citizen, so an American Brit, who after the fall of the Soviet Union became a hedge fund manager, basically investing in companies in countries that were in the Soviet bloc. Then he moved on to Russia, and what he would do is he would find companies where the stock was greatly undervalued, because after the fall of the Soviet Union there was just massive theft of these huge companies, and he would get investigations done with the help of the media to expose people in these companies who were committing huge theft of them. And then the stock would go up and he'd make money with that by helping make the businesses accountable and stripping power from the few oligarchs who had taken control of the whole country and kept everyone poor, basically, on top of whatever other factors that made life difficult in Russia after the Soviet Union. For a while he was very successful there. Vladimir Putin backed him, more or less, because the companies that Bill Browder was exposing for corruption and then making money on that, so basically helping improve the company and the country in the process, were all foes of Vladimir Putin. So at the time Putin allowed it. When Putin's interests started turning against Browder's, on one of his regular visits to Russia, he showed up at the airport. They said he's not allowed in Russia, and he didn't know what was going on. He was panicked. It came out, basically, he found out that he was considered a threat to national security. And the very short of it is, his company, Hermitage Capital, was the largest foreign investor in Russia. They had like $4 billion of investments in Russia. He was hugely successful.
Please.
After Bill Browder was banned from the country, he knew something horrible was going on, took out all the money from Hermitage Capital from Russia, so it couldn't be seized by the government. Very simply, the police forged ownership of companies that had affiliation with Hermitage Capital, and then used that.
I don't know why I'm here for sitting right here, except keeping your company.
Can we do this already, or do you want to yawn?
Go ahead. No, well, I can't help it.
It doesn't matter. You can't help it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The police in Russia forged ownership of companies that were under the umbrella of Hermitage Capital and used that ownership to steal $230 million in tax revenue that Hermitage or companies that were under its umbrella had paid to the Russian government. They just stole it for themselves. And a tax lawyer who was working in a law firm that was helping Bill Browder, Sergei Magnitsky, uncovered the whole plot. It's a massive plot. Obviously, I simplified it enormously. Sergei Magnitsky was the only lawyer who basically was willing to stay in Russia and stay on the case. Bill Browder was pulling everyone else out, saying this is too dangerous. We're hearing word that you guys can be arrested, you can be killed. We don't know what's going on. This is way too dangerous. But Sergei said, the law's on my side. I'm going to go testify against this. He testified twice against it and then was put in prison, tortured, and eventually killed. Bill Browder wrote this book about that, and now the fight for justice for Sergei. So it's an amazing book. It's just unthinkable. And this was 2009 when he died. On November 16th, Sergei Magnitsky died, leaving behind a widow, children, his mom. Just horrible. Now, today, or actually now it's yesterday, so December 23rd, 2016, President Obama signed a global Magnitsky Act, which Bill Browder had been lobbying for years, which means human rights abusers, such as the cops and prison officials and judges and whatever detectives who were involved in helping keeping Sergei Magnitsky imprisoned and trying to get him to perjure himself, to lie and say that he and his company stole the $230 million, which he would never do. It's amazing. He stood up to torture for a year just to keep his honesty, because that was more important to him than anything. This Magnitsky law freezes the assets of human rights abusers around the world in America. So say, for instance, some of the cops and like Pavel Karpov and Artem Kuznetsov and the prison official Oleg Silchenko, if they stole millions of dollars and they would buy $1 million or $700,000 whatever homes, cars, not just for themselves but vacations for their parents. In one case, one of them I read, he bought it in his mom's name, but he left her to live in a tiny apartment and he used it for himself or for his friends or whoever. They would travel the world buying properties in Dubai, in Europe, going partying in Europe, and in America too, because they don't want to just stay in Russia. Well, this punishes them in some way, gives them some justice, because now they won't be, their assets here are frozen, so if they have bank accounts here, they're frozen. Homes, whatever, they can't visit America. Their visas are banned. It's global because it's not just for Russia, but it's all over the world. Human rights abusers can be put on that list of people who are banned from coming to America, because there's not much, you can't go to court in Russia over it. And again, I'm just giving the very short version of it. I don't want to ramble on about it. So that was amazing that Bill Browder finally got that victory. Good for him. His life has been under threat ever since this. He lives in England now, which is much closer to Russia. There are a lot of Russians in England, a lot of Russian money coming in England. The book is like a testament to what Sergei Magnitsky went through, the torture in prison, and he absolutely refused to give in to the torture to try and get himself better conditions. And he got horribly sick, he was in horrible pain, but throughout that whole process, he would still write official complaints about his treatment, how he was being mistreated, how he was being persecuted for being honest about the $230 million theft. Another point of the book is nobody could steal $230 million from the government all in one day, all on Christmas Eve. Ironically enough, it's Christmas Eve now because it's 3 in the morning. All in one day, we're able to get this $230 million tax refund from the government. Basically, the implication in the book is nothing that big can happen without Putin's approval. And I don't want to demonize Russians or another country. I don't like doing that because there's a lot of that going on in America now. It's like a new McCarthyism. But this is a horrible, horrible abuse of power. Now, the reason I have my mom here too, not just to be silent, I've shown you I started talking to you about Sergei Magnitsky in 2010 after I heard a story on the radio, and I was lucky to hear it because I was so fascinated by it, and I immediately looked up. I'm going to put in the description a lot of info about this case, and just talk about what you think about what happened in Sergei Magnitsky, because there's a documentary about it, Justice for Sergei, that I've shown you several times.
I just feel bad for the young lawyer and leave behind his family and everything. I don't know how he went through that pain and he lasted that long. It's just terrible. I will just, I don't know, it's just too much. It's just so sinful. He had what he had, the sewage coming up.
Yeah, so in his prison, the toilet was a hole in the floor a lot of the time. The toilet would frequently get clogged, and so one time, sewage wouldn't go down. So one time he said Sergei managed to fix it sort of temporarily by putting a plastic cup on it, and somehow it fixed it, but then a mouse or a rat chewed through it and broke that. And he said one day that the sewage came overflowing and was across the whole floor, and Sergei and several other inmates in the room basically had to leap across beds like monkeys to avoid touching the floor.
It's just too much to handle.
He was incredibly brave. It's hard to believe how strong he was mentally. And he was just a tax lawyer. He wasn't like an activist or human rights activist.
It's just so sad. That's all I can say. So sad for these young men just to lose his life for that. He offered exchange, right?
Well, that was the implication. They wanted him to falsely confess to the theft of this $230 million because they didn't expect him to make complaints in the first place. They expected him to hide like everyone else. He wouldn't. So yeah, basically the implication is confess and we'll go easier on you.
What's that mean?
Meaning, say you stole the $230 million, stop complaining that we did it, stop accusing us of doing it. Yeah. And so the people investigating him, by the way, like Pavel Karpov, he was in the police, he was the same guy, and Artem Kuznetsov were the same people that Sergei was accusing of the tax theft that he uncovered.
What happened if he falsely...
So he was accusing them of doing it, and he showed up in court and he said, like, well, what's he doing here? And one of those guys, I can't remember which, was in the room because they were supposed to investigate him. So can you imagine that? He's accusing them of a crime and they're assigned to investigate the crime, see if there was any crime committed.
So if he was confessed, supposedly, whatever, he will let go?
No, I don't go into this wishful thinking of what
I like
what would have
wishful
happened.
thinkings.
You don't know.
Okay.
The fact is, you don't know. He still might have been made an example of.
It's Christmas Eve, oh, for God's sake.
So then he might have lost his dignity as well as his freedom. And which I wouldn't even blame him for lying and saying yes he took it, because I couldn't imagine suffering like that.
Just the yeah.
And not being able to see his family. And he was in some of the worst Russian prisons. One he was in where he got very sick, had no medical facilities because supposedly he was a threat that he could have escaped or something. So they put him in such a horrible prison where there's no place to get treated for he had pancreatitis, I believe, gallstones, which were horribly painful. So now that law was passed, and one thing Putin did to retaliate against the Magnitsky law a few years ago was to ban the adoption of Russian orphans by Americans. So Americans could no longer adopt Russian orphans, which created a big backlash because it's so cruel to use children basically as human shields, saying, okay, these children, a lot of whom are sick in Russia, who can't get proper medical treatment there, were going to be adopted here, and including hundreds who already had met the parents, the American parents who wanted to adopt them and were getting their homes ready, and then they couldn't come over. And they were separated because of this law from Putin. So it was just a horrible retaliation. And again, it's not that I even like demonizing another country. Yeah, America has done many bad things, has had many bad prisons and many secret prisons in Guantanamo Bay and CIA black sites. On this specific story, there's no denying what happened. It's a horrible situation, and it was just for selfish interest. It was just to make money. That's it. That's why Sergei died. I bet nobody planned on killing him at first. They were ready to, obviously, but nobody planned on it. They wanted it to all the problem to go away and make their millions and just enjoy it.
Oh, sad situation.
And the documentary about it is great, Justice for Sergei. There's also a lot of videos on YouTube. I'll link to those, Russian Untouchables, which chronicle evidence of the crime and this crime against the Russian government and against Sergei Magnitsky. I'm incredibly happy for Bill Browder for getting this law passed. He felt guilty just about going to his bathroom and getting hot water and showering every day because Sergei didn't have that. He maybe could shower once a week or sometimes once every 3 weeks in prison. And he lost 40 pounds. And I want to say this too, to Bill Browder, because I'm sending this to him. If my face looks familiar, it's because I met you in 2012, in June or so, in a hotel in DC, a talk you gave with John McCain about this whole story. I'm sorry because I was very awkward and nervous. Like I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to expect. I was like in awe of you, and I was like, I know this is a very touchy subject. Like it's fascinating for me, and yet I know there's nothing there's nothing fun about it. It's interesting to read about and learn about, but I was like, how do I approach you? I went up to you and approached you there. I was nervous and stuttering, and I'm sure Bill Browder appreciated just my interest. Like, I'm sure he's a nice person. He would appreciate anybody just saying, hey, I support you. And what I did was, at the time, I had filmed a video I wanted to put on Kickstarter, which is a website where you can raise money for projects, saying, I want to make a trailer for an eventual movie I want to make about Sergei Magnitsky. And I gave the DVD to him, and I gave a script of the trailer that I had wrote, and I told him some of my ideas for it. And I don't feel too bad about it because, again, I was awkward. I didn't know what to do at the time. I was so uncomfortable. I waited till everyone else left, and I just thought somehow we're gonna end up talking and getting to know each other or something. I feel so bad that I must have put him on the spot, made him feel weird. But he said, he's like, I'm gonna watch your DVD. I'm gonna watch it. I said, thanks. And then when I went outside to wait for the valet to pick up my car from the hotel, he walked out there too and was looking at his phone, and I didn't say anything. I didn't want to. I just let him go. So Bill, just know that I'm sorry I was I was awkward at the time, but hey, it worked out because I'm bringing people's attention to this book. I think it's great what you're doing to expose this, and I still think I'm the person. I will say this because I wanted to direct a movie about Sergei Magnitsky. I know you're working on a movie, but you know, you can put that to the side for a little while because I'll be directing something. I'm sure someday, even if there's a movie that comes out, I'll do an even better one. So you get 2 for the price of 1, Bill. I'm going to do, because not only I've still been thinking about this, I read the book, I can't help but envision how it's going to play out. Like in a movie, you compress certain things and elaborate on other things and combine certain events. You can linger on things just with editing that you can't in a book. Pacing and music and moving the camera and moving the actors within the scene. It stands out at me, and with other books I've read about Russia and like Stalin, is how bureaucratic it is, the crime is. Bill Browder says even though these guys were persecuting Sergei, they still meticulously documented everything, all their abuse of him. Because that's just what you do in Russia. So they ended up having all the evidence of the abuse of Sergei because they wrote everything down. When they ignored Sergei's complaints, they filed his complaints away. They were able to get all these documents, including Sergei's handwritten complaints about his treatment, like not getting treated for his illness, being falsely imprisoned. He wrote complaints. I can't believe how brave he was. My goodness, under the pain he was in. So I'm just saying, Bill, I'm always here to help. I've been fascinated by this story. I have more social skills now. I studied Jordan Belfort, straight line persuasion, understand a little bit certainty, clarity, how to persuade people and influence them so I can speak better. So again, I apologize for being awkward, but I hope you appreciate it regardless. And it's hard to believe this could happen in 2009 when Sergei was killed in prison. Like that kind of brutality, and just for greed. That's it. Ultimately, it was greed. It wasn't serving the nation of Russia. It definitely wasn't helping Russia. What outraged Sergei was the fact that they stole this $230 million that was in the Russian treasury that was supposed to go to, you know, the public good. It was supposed to go pay people's pensions, their retirement, pay for whatever, pay for the courts, pay for the roads. You know, things that supposedly you're supposed to do with a public fund like that, which is, you know, serve the general welfare. Welfare, I almost said welfare. Can you wake up?
I am. Something in my don't.
So yeah, Bill Browder, I'm still the guy to get all this done. Hey, look what I did with nothing. I made this. Yeah, I'm not going to brag. So Bill Browder, I'm going to just keep following what you do. And also, Bill Browder's dad, Felix Browder, just died a few days ago. So condolences for that. I think he was 91.
Oh, God bless him.
Long, incredible life.
Sorry.
He was a genius, basically. Sorry about that. My condolences. You know, it's painful. Check the links below, everybody who's watching. Leave comments about what you think, because this is still just so crazy how this could happen. And it's unthinkable. Sergei, his bravery, his sacrifice, being separated from his family, and still just completely, like, not even willing to waver for a second from the truth. Again, he was just a tax attorney. He wasn't trying to be any kind of activist or example to others. He withstood incredible pain and deprivation and freezing cold and heat. And I know I normally make comedy videos a lot, but this is, and my audience probably doesn't know this about me, this is a story I've been following for years. I've seen the documentary Justice for Sergei probably at least 5 times. I've showed it to you at least 2 or 3.
God bless the family who he left behind, and oh my God, it's Christmas Eve, and God bless us all. God bless America. And thank you. I live in a country, I have freedom, and I'm so grateful for that. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Bill, I hope I'm getting this story out to a new audience. I'm just hoping any effort anybody puts on YouTube to address this, or on the internet, gets this out to a new audience, gets people aware of it, respect Sergei's memory.
Yeah, that's true. Christmas Eve. God bless each and every one out there. God bless America. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Really, and it's a really good book, by the way. I read it very quickly.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.